To make objectives more actionable, ask yourself 5 questions. First, are you asking for something incremental or for a leap or discovery? Second, can you make your objective more specific? Third, can your objective be more action-oriented? Fourth, can you frame it more concisely? And fifth, can you make it more memorable? I really like these 5 questions, and so let me share a bit of why I ask each of them. Let's begin with the first question. Is your objective asking the team to make an incremental, or a leap, or a discovery? OKRs are meant to describe what we want to change. If the change that's most important right now is incremental to the status quo, describe it that way. In fact, incremental goals can significantly stretch your team. It may be that increasing sales by 5% in the next quarter really moves the needle. You can also lean into an incremental change. Perhaps you want to stretch your team more than that 5%, and you're aiming for a small leap of 10 or even 20%. But maybe you want your team to think more radically. Maybe you need an audacious leap. In that case, you may need to invent a new product or raise tens of millions of dollars. Or maybe you don't have a baseline yet, and the priority is to learn something new or make a discovery, such as finding a new audience or testing a rocket's performance limits. The language you choose to write your objective will be different than what you'd use for an incremental improvement or a big leap. In my experience, you and your team are the best judges of what stretch means for you. But do be clear about how much change you're asking the team to commit to, and match that with the language in your OKRs. You'll quickly find out whether an objective is underwhelming or overwhelming, or whether it pushes the team the right amount. The second question I ask is, can an objective be made more specific? Vague goals are weak goals. When goals are specific, concrete, and action-oriented, they'll give your team more clarity. And if there's too much room for interpretation, a team might be unable to effectively coordinate its efforts to reach the goal. Take, for example, an editorial team tasked with creating the best content on leadership. What does best content mean? What if we change the objective to create the most useful leadership resources? The goal is more precise because it steers us to how we'll try to improve. You might even take this one step further and say, create the most useful leadership resources for new managers. Did you see how adding specificity changes the direction of the objective? On the other hand, excessively specific objectives can start to resemble a list of tasks or to-dos. In that case, zoom out a bit to give your team more room for creativity. For example, if you were to say, publish a resource for new managers on conducting one-on-ones, you've probably gotten too specific. Let's move on to the next question on our list. Is the objective action-oriented? The language you use in your OKRs is important because they express your strategy. Passive language does not inspire people like action-oriented language. Consider the difference between improve our customer service versus own our customers' issues and fix them. Owning and fixing will inspire more specific key results than just improving. These action-oriented verbs also strike a different tone. To own a customer's issues implies more empowerment for the team than to be just asked to improve things. Here's a clear litmus test for this one. Does the objective evoke the action you want to see happen? My fourth question is, can we frame this objective more simply and concisely? There's a huge difference between ensure that every new business in the Northeast Corridor wants to establish their headquarters in our city, or be the home of commerce in the Northeast. Again, the language we use really matters. When we're too verbose or jargony, we do not connect well with the team. So find ways to say more with less. Objectives are more powerful with clear and direct language. And now for my final question. Can you make this objective even more memorable? Earlier, we discussed the importance of understanding what our organizations stand for. Your team will be spending a lot of time focusing on your objectives throughout the cycle, and so it helps to have some stickiness to them. To make your objectives more memorable, tie them to a higher purpose. Then your team can see how they fit into the bigger picture. Providing a simple way to remember the big picture lays the foundation for crafting great key results.